So just so you know, my name's Ollie Pendridge, and I'm the Chief Executive of Community Energy South. I'm also a Director of Community Energy England, which is the national body for community energy and communities that want to do community energy. And of which there are about 400 communities across England now. If you know, after this conversation, if you want to know more, come back to me and I'll put you in touch with Community Energy England and the website and link you up. And it's really exciting what communities are doing across the country. And then there's Tom Day, who's going to be speaking from Essex Town Council. Do you want to say hello, Tom?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
And thank you, Tom. And then also Luciana de Almeida, who's from the climate change team, from Tom's climate change team, and has been putting this project together in the background and working with the solar panels for the village.
Hi everyone, good evening.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Luciana. And then also Esme Dongi, who's also been coordinating this project in the background, who's from Community Energy South, and is also a director of a community energy group herself called Forest Row Community Energy, and we're going to be hearing about her experience with Forest Row during the presentation as well.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Good to see you all.
And also Liz is in the background, Liz from Community Energy South, who puts together a lot of our webinars and information on community energy and real knowledge for the energy sector. Thanks, Liz, for coming along.
Oh, it's nice to see everyone.
So we're a merry band. So I think before, Esme, you're going to put a question up, aren't you? So
Yeah.
I'm chairing, Esme's in the back controlling, in the control room, if you like. So a questionnaire will come up on your screens, and asking you what's interested you to join us this evening, and you can tick one of those boxes and submit it. I'm going to have a go as well, and then Esme will show us the results in a minute.
Yeah, just letting everyone put their answers
A little
in.
bit of time. Do you all see that? It's quite a fun way of doing it.
There we go. I think we've got.
Hopefully, you're not going to tick about TV.
I think everyone's answered now, so
You've done it, Gary.
Should be able to share those results.
There we go.
Can you see?
Right. So okay. So 47% answered. I would like to hear more about solar-powered community buildings, which is great. We're going to find out about that. I'd like to understand what community energy is all about. So I'm delighted that you've ticked that one. And also about local action and climate change, which is really important because this project linked to climate change strategy at Essex County Council, and it's on a lot of our minds at the moment. And 53%, so the highest, I'm interested in being part of a local community energy project, so that's great. And somebody ticked, there was nothing good on TV. Liz! Okay, thank you. So if you're happy, I think there's a presentation that we're going to go into. Well, I know there is.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen so you can see this presentation now. So bear with me a second. And I'll just make a little adjustment on there. There we go. Over to you, Ollie.
Okay, thank you very much. So, so welcome to Empower Danbury. This project has been put together by Essex County Council and linked to their climate change strategy. And the work on the solar projects in Danbury and the strategy behind this is being supported by an Interreg project, which we'll hear more about. And as I explained, Community Energy South and Forest Row Energy are here today and will give you an overview of community energy. So at the end of this, we can touch on a conversation, thoughts about what action is Essex County Council taking on climate emergency. So hopefully, you'll get a good view of that. What is Empower Danbury? And we can have a conversation about that at the end and answer any questions. And also just on the context of community energy and what it means. And about Community Energy South and the Essex Community Energy Pathway. And I'll go into that in a minute. And how to build momentum. So this example, a case study from Forest Row, which Esme will take you through. And what support, should you want to go forward with community projects, and what support there is available to build community energy projects such as in Danbury. And also if you've got any ideas of your own, we can start considering what community energy could look like in Danbury, if it was driven by you. Emphatically.
Sorry, a bit slow.
Have we gone forward too?
No, over to Tom now, who's going to...
Sorry, I'll pass over to Tom.
Is it me now, Ollie? Thanks, Ollie. Good evening, everybody. My name's Tom Day, and I am head of the Energy and Low Carbon team at Essex County Council. I was just going to say a few words about the work of the council and this particular project. It's interesting, I sit in a function called Environment and Climate Action, which has only existed for about 12 months. And prior to that, we were called Waste and Environment. And there has been a very significant shift inside the council in terms of awareness and political support for doing something serious about climate action. And it's quite telling that we'll be launching our next 5-year organisational strategy next year. And whereas in the previous 5-year organisational strategy, if you look through it, you would barely see any mention of climate action. It's really encouraging that in the next 5-year strategy, there will be 4 strategic priorities for the organisation, and one of those will be climate action. And so the organisation has come forward leaps and bounds in the last 12 months in terms of its political commitment to climate action. And as you can see there, the leader of the council has made two very public statements, in fact, one in autumn of last year and again this year, to the importance of us leading by example. And that's evidenced by the work that we've got going on with the Essex Climate Action Commission, which is an independent body that was set up nearly 12 months ago now, and it's chaired by Lord Randall, who was the Environment Advisor to the Theresa May government, and has a whole range of external expertise sitting on it. It's an independent body that's there really to advise and to make a series of recommendations to the politicians at the county on what steps we should take to address climate action. And it will be releasing its interim report in the next few weeks. And I urge you, if you're interested, to look out for that and have a look at that interim report. That is just one example of how the organisation is putting climate action very, very seriously at the heart of what it does. But it's also important that the words are backed up by action. So one of my jobs is to help the organisation think about how it will get to net zero as an organisation, but also how we can help the County of Essex get to net zero by 2050, and certainly if we can, well ahead of 2050. So we are starting to make some inroads into delivering projects that deliver real tangible benefits on this. So I can just, Esme, if you can flick on the slide. So here are a few examples of some of the things we've done more recently, and this is just, if you like, just a bit of a snapshot. We've been very actively chasing, if you like, grant funding through European bodies. And we've been successful in setting up something called Low Case, which is low carbon across the southeast, working with Kent County Council and East Sussex County Council on the programme to award grant funding to small and medium-sized enterprises in Essex to help them reduce their carbon emissions. We've also ran last year a solar panel purchasing scheme for the residents of Essex, which is a collective purchasing scheme where people could sign up to have a solar installation put on their domestic property, and through collective purchasing secure much more attractive rates for the solar panels on their house, which is a very successful campaign which we will be running again next year. And we have for some years, and we're about to launch again, our Essex Energy Switch campaign, which is a similar collective scheme for residents that enables you to sign up and, as part of a collective purchasing process, look to get yourself onto a better domestic energy tariff. What was really pleasing about the last round of that switch was that not only did we secure residents a good, really good reduction on their domestic energy tariffs, but it was also with a green supplier. So it's quite telling that green energy came out as the winner of that bidding process, and it was cheaper. And as a result of that, when we run the new scheme, we will only be going to market for suppliers who can guarantee 100% renewable energy tariffs. That's just a very quick snapshot of a few of the things that the organisation is doing. But with the work of the Climate Commission, we will be setting out some ambitious investment targets for the authority to reduce our carbon emissions as an organisation in the coming years. And that's going to involve us investing some significant sums of money in our estate and in our fleet of vehicles as an organisation to get them to net zero. So I think that it's moving in the right direction, but there's clearly a lot more still to be done. But one of the things I'm very passionate about, and why I'm delighted to be here this evening talking about this is actually there'll be a lot more that we can do through community action and through getting residents, working with residents and working with communities on community energy schemes. And that's why I'm delighted to be able to talk about Empower. So Esme, if you could flick on, please. So Empower, what's Empower? So this was one of the projects that very early on, in applying for European funding, we were keen to get some demonstration projects down on the ground, get some assets built out and see some tangible benefits in local communities. And through the Empower project, we were able to secure some grant funding to install some solar panel schemes on community assets in a location in Essex. Fortunately for you, that was in Danbury. So I'm delighted that we've been able to progress that project and install some solar panel systems on Danbury Primary School and the outdoors centre just next door. That for me is just the beginning, actually. And one of the things I'm really keen to look at with this project, and that Luciana and I have been thinking about, is then how we can use that as a basis to start a conversation such as this with residents about climate action, but also encourage residents to think about not just being consumers of energy, but also producers of energy. So with a scheme such as Empower and putting solar panels on the school and the outdoor centre, we want to explore ways to see how that could expand into the local community and encourage local residents to think about solar installations on their own properties, and increasingly start to think about how we can keep more of the benefit of the energy that's generated in the local community. In a lot of cases, we can find ourselves in a situation where the power that we're generating from the solar panels, taking the solar panels as an example, can go onto the grid. And I'm really interested in this concept of where we can not produce more of our own energy, keep it locally, and for the benefit of local residents and local assets. So the installations that we've built at Danbury for me is just the beginning. And if I can flip onto the next slide, Esme. I love this picture. I think for me, this is what it's all about. It's just a fantastic picture, actually. It's really, when I saw that for the first time, it just put a huge smile on my face. It's absolutely wonderful. Not least because I see Paul Stokes, who I know well, throwing some shapes in the background, which is quite amusing. But it's really great that we've been able to get the installation on at the school, because clearly there's a huge opportunity there to think about the educational benefits that can come with that. And the school is, one of the pillars of the local community. So it's very visible to local residents. So it opens up doors, we hope, to talk to families who send the children to the primary school, as well as the wider community about this could be the start of something bigger. And obviously with the outdoor centre as well, not only does that provide a service to the local residents, but there are lots of visitors that come to the outdoor centre. And there are lots of school groups that come to the outdoor centre. So again, it's a very visual sign of a step forward in terms of us producing more of our own renewable energy. And just as an aside to this, one of the things that we're working on currently is to think about how we can take all of the country parks and all the outdoor centres that we have across Essex and get them to net zero in the next 5 years. Not least because there will be a fantastic advert, the kinds of things that we think we can help communities in Essex to do. So I'm really, really delighted to be here this evening. I'm really pleased to have seen the installations go on in the last few weeks, because I know Luciana has been working incredibly hard to get us to this point. So she deserves a lot of credit, and colleagues also from Community Energy South have been tremendous in helping us get to this point. As I said, I think it's the beginning of something far bigger. It was really great that as soon as we started to talk about this project, maybe 12, 18 months ago, we very quickly got a call from the head teacher at St John's up the road saying, I'd like some of this as well, please. So I'm really pleased to say that we've been able to secure some more grant funding to be able to go and do an installation at St John's Primary School up the road, and that by February of next year, with a fair wind, the head there will have a new roof and a new solar system installed in his school as well. So fantastic, fantastic news. That is, really pleased with that. So I'm just really delighted to be here. I'm really happy to be able to speak with the confidence that I've got the organisation right behind me on this as well. And I really look forward to listening to the rest of this evening's presentations and the discussion to follow.
So Ollie, we're going to go back to you at this point, and you're just going to share a bit about Community Energy South.
I think you might be on mute.
Am I on mute? Can you not hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes finding the mute button. But thank you very much, Tom. It's great to see those projects, and in the village, and in a way that the young people and the village can interact with them and actually understand the benefits of solar and that commitment. And the other side is on the energy bill, switching. That's something that we've worked with community energy groups, where energy bill switching is fundamental, and some people we've come across in advice clinics that haven't switched their bills for like 10 years. And which includes like something like with British Gas, because they've always been happy with it. And we found people with bill switching that have saved hundreds and hundreds of pounds from switching. So, and unfortunately, that's the way the market has moved, to encourage people to switch. So it's a really good habit, and that we should be supporting our communities through. So just to let you know a little bit about Community Energy South. We are an umbrella organisation that was set up in 2013 to support the growth of community energy in the southeast of England. Now you can see this little map here. There's a whole cluster of groups around sort of central Sussex, around east and west Sussex, and there's a reason for that, because in 2012 we ran a mentoring program for 12 groups to set up, including Forest Row Energy that you're going to hear from, and that was funded through the Cabinet Office. And we were able, and during that process, which was a year-long program, we've learned a lot since then. But during that process, the community energy groups that were established, 12 community energy groups, said, let's set up Community Energy South as a support mechanism for community energy. And what we try and do is be a voice for the sector. So we do a lot of lobbying to government with Community Energy England as well, and regularly write to Kwasi Kwarteng, the minister at Bays, and other ministers, and we try and capacity build for communities, but also track the changes in the energy market and try and support community energy new business models, and ultimately to help communities get to net zero themselves. So that's really on the agenda now, which is great. But back in 2010, 2013, we didn't have that behind us. You know, the local authorities had gone to net zero as well. So that's really useful. And we support groups with fuel poverty. It's like a pendulum. Some community energy groups develop their own renewables, or they facilitate them, and some community energy groups do community energy awareness and education. And some community energy groups do all of it together. So there's a variety of community energy group models, and what we try and do is bring those together so that they can support each other with the view that we're stronger together. Well, I've given you a few ideas on this already, but generally a community energy group is brought together from a community. It's established as a community benefit society or a community interest society, and for the benefit of the community. And they do renewables projects or energy efficiency. Now, the first project that I worked on in England was the Harvey's Brewery down in Lewes in East Sussex, where we put solar on the brewery roof, and then we went out to the community to have to invest in that renewable project, to take shares in the project, and every year those shareholders get a return on their investment for that project for 5%, and they can't transfer their shares. They can, but we, the society, can ask the shareholders, so we enable each year to redeem the shares so that people can cash in their shares and have the original investment back. We work a lot with grant funds around community energy and initiatives, and we'll learn a little bit more about that as the presentation goes on. And then, last year, having already worked with Tom and his team at Essex County Council, we worked together to run what we call the Pathway for Community Energy. So because in Essex at that time, there weren't many groups really interested in community energy, or we wanted to try and see the interest. So we did a survey of communities across the county, and we had great results from communities really interested, and that resulted in a community energy group being set up very quickly, actually, up in Saffron Walden, and through the Pathways programme with Essex County Council, we've started to peer mentor new groups. And that's something, if you wanted to move forward with Empower Danbury, that we could be there as a support mechanism. And that's where we want to be and help new groups set up. Great. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you on to Esme, who was on that original mentoring program back in 2012 and established Forest Row Energy.
Thanks, Ollie. Thank you. So we thought it'd be useful to run you through one example. Of course, there's many ways that community energy groups work, but just to let you know about how one model could work and let you know about Forest Row Energy that I'm a director of. So I'm just going to let you know how we managed to build some momentum up as a community energy business. And then I'll also let you know about how we can support you going forward to do the same. So Forest Row Energy, we were established back in 2015 and we work with Community Energy South to help build our organisation. And the first thing we did is to make sure that not only we've got a good team, but we also engage with people throughout our organisation. So we were lucky enough to form a team of people that had industry experience. So my background is in sustainability, environmental, energy, project management. And we also had people come on with the board that had experience in finance and business management as well. That doesn't mean that every team that gets formed for community energy groups has that experience. And this is what we want to help offer you, to train you up as those industry experts, so to speak. So we established ourselves as a community energy not-for-profit cooperative with a vision to build a self-sufficient, energy-efficient local community that's powered by renewable energy. And then we went on a journey from there. And what we found is that it was really important to have a high-profile campaign or a high-profile installation. Now, you've already got that in Danbury, which is fantastic. We did that through our Solar Power to People campaign, where we put in a bid to a community energy fund, which is the M&S Community Energy Award. And we made sure that this would stand out. We wanted to do something innovative. So we put this together as a showcase for community energy. And it was essentially a solar installation alongside other business development tools and practices to help us develop our business. So there's our solar installation on our community centre. It is the size of about a household installation, so it's not a large installation, but what it does say to the community is, how do household installations work for you? And that's what we really wanted to demonstrate to them. And we got so much interest in what we were doing here. When we went for the Community Energy Award with the M&S Fund, we had votes for it. And we had about 1,300 people vote for us for this award, which is fantastic, as there's only 5,000 people living in our village. So it really did get people inspired. And alongside that, we also had PowerVolt. They donated a battery to us because they heard about our campaign. And we had the Forest Row Parish Council come on board as partners. So this started to build up our momentum. We were able to show that solar installations do what they say on the tin. So we showed that it produced 96% of the expected generation. So that's about the average household use per year if you're going to use all of the solar. So a lot of people were thinking, do solar installations actually produce the amount of solar that they say they would? And we were able to show that they did. So that's something you could do in Danbury with your installation. You could monitor the installation, you can show people how much energy you're producing, how much carbon you're saving, and really use that as a bit of a showcase in a similar way to how we have. So alongside our solar installation, this, as I said, was a showcase for solar and battery storage. So we were actually awarded some low case funding. Again, this is a fund that Danbury can access. And alongside the solar installation, this funded us to develop our website. So really like how that looks. It still looks nice and modern a few years later. And we were also able, as part of that grant, to start to support local solar energy projects, as well as just our community centre. So we were able to put together an outline for working with local contractors, solar contractors, and essentially act as a reseller and get a small amount of commission, and then also do project management for solar installations. This is one of our solar installations that we managed, and this is on our local fruit and veg shop, organic fruit and veg shop. So again, another high profile installation. And this is really important when you get community energy projects going. to get these small, high-profile installations that get everybody excited about what you're doing. So this, again, raised attention for what we're doing. And it was at that point that our local college got in touch with us and said, can you help us out, this Emerson College? And we were able to put together a funding bid for the Rural Community Energy Fund, and that allowed us to do a feasibility study into renewables for them. And they're looking to take forward a range of our recommendations, which is great. We built on our funding expertise, and now we put in a second bid to the Rural Community Energy Fund. And that's looking at how to transition rural communities from using oil over to using renewable options like air source heat pumps. So we've been working on that project for about 7 or 8 months. And on the back of that project, we're just about to do more work with Community Energy South to take on a much bigger project looking at how to help rural communities to transition from using oil. So as you can see, we've really started building this momentum up now over a few years. We also have applied for various different funding. Ollie mentioned that there's funding available to do energy advice work, and we ran 3 years worth of energy advice surgeries, so to speak, and they helped people to switch their energy providers and save money on their energy bills. We also showed them how to switch to green energy contracts and showed them that it's not often that much more expensive, maybe just 10 or 20 pounds extra a year if you can afford that. And quite a lot of people that we spoke to could, which is fantastic. So we helped people switch to green energy contracts and just really went out in our local community advising them on energy efficiency as well. And we were awarded a Power Partners Fund grant to do some of that work. So we have spent a lot of time building up local partnerships. So really great to get out and start working with other community energy groups, linking in with them, building up your local networks. So alongside Community Energy South, we've been working with other local community energy groups as well. And we even managed to go and speak to Claire, now O'Neill, was Perry, at Houses of Parliament, with our local MP, and start to really raise awareness for community energy and be part of that ongoing movement to help support national community energy. So there's me and Ollie, Claire O'Neill there, and that's Nusrat Ghani to the right, is our local MP, who also came to look at our solar installation. So that ticked her boxes, I think, in terms of her green credentials for the day. So that's just kind of our journey of where we are at the moment. So we've built up our team, we've made sure we've got noticed. We've made a small start with our small installations, and then start to build on that success and develop our partnerships. So this is what we want to help you do in Danbury. And there's a lot of ways we can support you to do that. So I just wanted to let you know about that. But before I do, we've got one more question actually for you. So I'm going to see if you're all still awake and ask you another question. I'm going to launch that. Can you see a question?
Are we supposed to tick as many answers as we want?
As many as you like, yeah.
Okay.
Great, we've got a couple more people maybe to go. Speak now. There we go, I'll end that now. And I'll show you the results. So there's a lot of interest for all types of community energy projects I can see here. So renewable energy for community buildings and businesses, energy efficiency, low carbon transport, projects that help save money on energy bills and also raising awareness. So a really good broad interest, which is fantastic. Good to hear. So I'll stop sharing that now. Great, so I'm going to just run through now the ways that Community Energy South and Essex County Council can support you guys in Danbury to start building on the momentum of these solar installations that you have in place. So there's a number of things that we can offer you at this stage. So we've already produced a community energy pathway guide for Essex, and we'll send this over to you after the event this evening. And that takes you through the community energy journey and gives you some initial advice on building your team, becoming incorporated, starting your first projects, and really going through the whole process that we've been speaking about this evening. So that guide's available now for you. We've got a community energy masterclass that's coming up on the 3rd of December, and I'll give you a bit more information about that in a moment. So that's a whole day, free day, basically training you up and giving you loads of information, lots of top speakers coming along to help train you as community energy professionals. So that's on the 3rd of December. Then we've got 2 steps of business support. So this is to help you build community energy projects and a community energy group. So we've got the first steps support, and that's available to 10 different groups, and something that we are holding space for you in Danbury. So we've got lots of space on that for you. And that's looking at where you are now, where do you want to be, and what support can we offer you? Some initial support, maybe linking you up with other contacts, looking at some funding bids that maybe would be of interest to you, and just helping you to make those initial first steps. And then going on from there, people who really want to build up their community energy business, we've got 5 groups that we can support for our next steps business support. And this is about 10 days of time from myself and other members of the team at Community Energy South. And we can work with you to put a business plan together, to put together your first funding bid and to become incorporated. So that really should help you get going on your journey. Once you've got your first project, your first funding bid, the momentum can really carry on from there. So lots we can offer you. So as I mentioned, the masterclass on the 3rd of December, we'll send you round links for this. So please do come along. So it's about how to make community energy happen. And as I said, lots of different speakers. 1 day of masterclass to give you the skills and knowledge to make a difference in your local community. There's a survey that's now available about action on climate change in Danbury, and I know some of you have already filled this in, so thank you for doing that. It's really important that we get your views and ideas and hear from you. So if you haven't yet filled it in, I will send you the link again to do that. Please do send it out to people in your local community, and so we can really tailor our support around what you really need. And I think that's enough of us talking. We'd love to hear from you. I think Ollie is going to take the reins. And
I am, and hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, so we've just gone over half an hour, which I think is good because there's always a lot of information with community energy, but and some really good stories. So let's have a chat. Have you got any questions about ideas for renewable energy or energy efficiency, fuel poverty, ideas, people who may be vulnerable who could do with support in the village, or about, what community energy could look like in the village? And just see if we can have a discussion about that. Or do you have any questions for Luciana and Tom about the installations and what's happened at the schools and the outdoor centre and the other school that's coming up in February?
I have a question if somebody else doesn't.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi.
Is
Okay,
it?
great.
Oh no, Margaret. Hello,
Yeah,
Margaret.
hi, Margaret Ann. Hi. Listen, thank you so much to yourself, Ollie, to Esme, and to Tom. Unfortunately, I arrived a bit late due to another meeting, so I didn't hear this. I love the idea of what's happened on the schools. Can you tell me, is this, I guess, could you share, and maybe you did cover this and then I apologize for this, is of the schools, is that being fed into the grid, or is that helping power the school? Was that covered? Maybe that's a question for Tom. One.
I think, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Sure. So hi, Margaret. No, it's going directly into the school, and in the case of the outdoor centre, it's going directly into the outdoor centre. And the same thing will happen at St John's when we put the installation in there. But one of the things I'm really interested in exploring is sometimes the school might produce more energy than it needs. So the classic example is in the summer holidays, right? Or at weekends or at half term when the school's closed. The solar panels may be producing more energy than the school needs. And what would happen there is that surplus would go onto the grid, and you wouldn't get very much for it. But what I'm interested in exploring with that kind of a situation is whether or not we can keep that power in the local community and possibly use that somewhere else in the local community. And it's an interesting idea, and one that we're exploring with the grid operator, UK Power Networks, and with the regulator Ofgem. These kinds of ideas are starting to be discussed more and more in community energy, because actually I think it opens up lots of interesting opportunities.
Yes.
But to answer your question, in the first instance, yes, there'll be power that those systems generate will feed the school or the outdoor centre, as depending where the panels sat, first before anything else.
Oh, okay, that's great. So what you're saying basically is there's not, so you provide, these solar panels have been provided, but there's no storage facility currently.
No.
Okay,
No.
have you, and it sounds like you've explored this, is there, was there a barrier to entry with regards to finance, or something that battery wasn't included, or was it just, I guess my question is, how come it wasn't included, or was it just not the part of the design?
Good question. I think partly it was budget driven.
Okay.
The grant that we had, there were some limitations on that. But I think, to be honest as well, the size of the systems, they don't meet all the load that's required of those buildings. So if the building's open, if the school's open, if the outdoor centre is open, then all of the power generated by those panels on site. It's a good question though, because I think that the storage will increasingly become important, and we will be interested to look at storage projects.
Yeah.
I don't think it was quite justified in this case at this point in time.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so if I can add to that, Margaret, Ann, and Tom, is we've got some examples from other community energy groups, and like Forest Row, where they did add batteries on, and that was donated from the battery company. So there becomes a focal point, so the village can go along and have a look at the solar panels, but also have a look at the battery. It becomes an educational piece for the kids as well as the families. But that's something that maybe could be driven by the community. The other thing is, just to give you an example of what Tom's saying, in the summer months, the school will still be generating and putting power into the grid. It will have a baseline energy usage that will cover. But, maybe the parish council have got their own energy bill, or public buildings in the council, that some way we could find a way of offsetting that against the parish council buildings. The mechanism isn't quite there at the moment, but by raising these examples and issues, the energy sector does like to adapt, because in effect the energy sector, the energy system was built in the 50s, and it's good on more than 60 years old, and needs upgrading. So that's why we have these fun conversations with UK Power Networks as well. So has anybody else got any?
Can I just add to that as well, Ollie? I would really support in this case that battery wasn't included, because as Tom says, almost all the energy is used, and you have to also think with the batteries, they do use lithium. That has to be mined. There's disposal issues as well. What I would say with the Forest Row energy example I gave then is that the battery is not going to pay for itself at all over the period that it is in there for the time of the battery, the lifetime of the battery, because it's just not storing enough energy. And by the sounds of it, that's the situation that would have happened with the installations in Danbury. Unless you're going to have a lot of excess energy, then the battery is not economical or environmentally sound necessarily to take forward.
Can I just add a point to that, Stuart Bird?
Yes.
I've actually, just to declare, I've had solar panels on my roof for 9 years now, and so I've observed the generation of those and the way I use my own energy. Obviously, there is always an issue with the fact that you're often generating way more energy than you consume yourself. But in the case of a school, at least the people are generally there during the day, and there is a usage during the day. So it depends very much on the particular use case whether batteries make sense. But across a community, there may, in the future, I would say that go to more of a microgrid solution. Maybe we're talking a number of years hence, local battery storage might be part of the solution. But I agree with Esme that that electricity that they generate won't go very far in the grid. It will only go down the road to the next house that needs it. There's not a we're actually saving the grid by having lots of micro generation dotted around the country, because it means that less energy is having to flow through long distances to other parts. So that energy will always be very efficient, even if it isn't used by the actual generator.
That's right. We can rest assured that that's happening. Thank you, Stuart. Has anybody else got any questions, or shall I throw something in the meantime? Yes, Nikki, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentations. They're really it's a really exciting potential for Danbury, I think. I suppose I wondered, given what you've said about the power usage from the solar panels that were on your community building, Esme, and some of the other examples you gave, you'd mentioned about like community share offers and gaining interest and things. And I suppose I wondered where that model comes from, if more often than not the panels are only sufficient to generate enough energy to sort of power the building that they are attached to, for example. And just thinking about how you can roll some of those ideas out in Danbury as well, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the community share offers, that's where the community invests funds to pay for the installation, and then you enter into an agreement with where the panels are situated for that user to buy the energy from you, and then the shareholders get some interest on their investment. And that model is definitely still used very much throughout the community energy sector. At the moment, you would need to have a larger installation than the smaller ones we've talked about, especially now that the subsidies aren't available. Solar panels are coming down in price all the time, and as Tom mentioned, there's collective buying. But to do a community share offer, you're looking at a bigger installation, a much bigger installation. And with Community Energy South, we're looking at various different opportunities on how that could happen. So if you, as a group in Danbury, were looking to go forwards with some larger projects, that's absolutely something that we can talk to you about. And on the 3rd of December at our masterclass, we have a session on this, on how to raise finance through community share offers. So please come along to that session and we'll explain more to you then.
I'd love to. I can't come on that day, unfortunately. But
We're going to record it. We're going to record
I'd love
it
to come.
and we'll send it out. So yes, you can still see it.
Okay, great.
Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Great.
Nikki, I clocked that you said earlier that you couldn't make that meeting, so we will record it and we'll take your details down so that we can make sure we can send it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Can I ask a question about life of the solar panels? You talked about batteries and battery life, but the life of the solar panel, I mean, the cost of the installation, how long will it last?
Can I comment on that one?
Go ahead, Tom.
So I was talking to, I don't know if any of you are aware, but the first charging station for electric vehicles is being built in Braintree. It's going to be open very soon. And I was speaking to the gentleman whose company is building that yesterday. And he's been a solar developer for 45, his family have been solar developers for 45 years. And solar panels generally currently come with a warranty of about 25 years. So 25 years, you've got a warranty, which is pretty good for any technology or any product. But he was saying to me that solar panels that his father installed 45 years ago are still working absolutely fine. And I think that one thing I always say about solar is that, you know, what technology can you leave outdoors in the rain, in the sun, in the wind? It doesn't have any moving parts, and it's still working fine 45 years later. So I think in terms of longevity, as well as cost, as Esme was saying, you'd be hard pressed to find a better technology. So I've got every confidence those panels that we've put on the school and on the outdoor centre will still be going long after I've left this earth. So I think, and they're improving all the time as well. That's the other thing. The efficiency of the panels is improving all the time. So.
Yeah,
that's right.
Just to add into that as well, they generally would pay for themselves after about between 8 and 10 years. So if you were to pay for a solar installation, you're looking at that to pay back. And then so after that, that's all free electricity. And as Tom says, 40 years plus, they do start to reduce in efficiency slightly as they get older. But you get free energy from that point onwards. So they're really a good investment as well.
Could I just ask, sorry.
Go ahead, Nikki. Sorry. Yes.
Just kind of building on that question, obviously the focus has been on solar energy. Are there other types of energy generation that would fall under this type of project, or is the focus purely on solar at the moment?
Well, to begin with, it's under solar on this project, but we have community energy groups around the country now looking at heat a lot, and so basically, buildings that require a lot of heat. Jackie, I can imagine your energy bill at the church is a lot higher at the weekends, for example, to fill a space. And so, heat is becoming a lot more thing. 45% of most buildings, energy goes onto heat. And so, that's something that could be ground source, or maybe the way the school is heated, or the outdoor centres heated, or other community buildings, and then into homes as well. Maybe a scheme locally where people can have their boilers maintained, or give them a service, because that actually makes boilers a lot more efficient as well. So yeah.
There's also lots of energy efficiency projects that community energy groups are running. Electric vehicles is another area that more community energy groups are getting into. But yeah, as Ollie says, the good thing about heat as well at the moment is that there's still a subsidy for households, and for a little while longer for commercial as well. So that's up for review soon. So that is something that a lot of community energy groups are very interested in, and that I'm working on, and Ollie is working on as well.
And also just to add to that, as a council, we've been promoting the solar scheme for domestic properties for residents. But obviously the government has recently launched its Green Homes Grant, which is primarily a subsidy for domestic properties for heating solutions. So we're really keen to promote that amongst residents, because that's something the individual needs to take out. We're running a scheme as a county to extend the Green Homes Grant into fuel poor households, to help fuel poor households access the Green Homes Grant. But any resident in their own right can apply for a fund, but actually sometimes it's about making people aware and also helping them through that process, because some of these interventions in your home can be quite intrusive. So perhaps solar panels less so because it's up on the roof, but if you start to talk about heating, it starts to come inside the home more. And so helping people through that process is quite important, I think.
Could I just say something about the Green Homes Grant? It doesn't cover any cost towards solar panels. Is that right?
That's right. So it's primarily targeting insulation and heating.
Okay.
But
well, Ollie, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. The building fabric, it's more based around heating.
Yeah. I was just interested in, I watched a webinar from Frome Town Council that was presented by Anna Francis, the Resilience Manager, and there was lots and lots of ideas, some of which have been covered. And one of the things that she mentioned under energy was Solar Streets project, whereby a street is leafleted by a company, and if there's enough uptake in interest for solar panels in that street, the company can install them at a much reduced cost to residents. Is that something that, do you think as a community would be good to sort of look into?
Linda, that's a really good place to start, and the way with some communities, just to get a street that's interested in climate change or that type of initiative, and to look how you could approach, I would always say 3 installers to give you, a best price for the community, and then look how you could group by them and the reductions. And we'd be happy to support you on that.
It's something that I personally would be interested in as a resident as well. I don't have solar panels at the moment, probably primarily because of the cost involved. But I think it's a good way of raising awareness as well in the community and getting people interested in the climate chat, shall we say, and encouraging people to invest in a carbon neutral future with the solar panels. So is that something that will be covered in the masterclass on how to sort of take those projects forward?
Yeah, so I'm just a little bit wary of time, but yes,
Sorry, yeah.
exactly. No, thank you very much, Linda. It's a very good point. Yeah, we will. In the masterclass, we will ask groups to come forward with their ideas and openly discuss them and see how we can support them on group buying. So
I just mentioned that I can't attend that because I work during the day, so I would appreciate if you could send me the sort of the recording of it would be lovely. And thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. If we can use the projects on the school, on your school, and on the community building as a catalyst for the village, to and promote what's happened that this project has brought forward, and get the debate going, then brilliant.
I'll just chip in. This is James Gerard with my wife Natasha. I'm conscious you're over time, so apologies chipping in at the last. Really interesting, thank you. And I don't know, we've had the view in this household that maybe there's an opportunity to have a green corridor. I don't know if you're familiar with the geography, but down at the bottom of the hill, we've got the Sandon Park and Ride, which is a great start. It's got a windmill on it. There's the proposal for a wind farm to the left-hand side as you drive up the A414. You've then got the school and the Danbury Park kind of solar installation as you've just described. And then further up the hill, clearly, St John's in due course. I wonder whether, I mean, that could support the communications. And then secondly, whether we could be a bit more proactive in identifying candidate buildings, certainly within brownfield areas, just by simply looking at Google satellite views to look at the big grey blocks that are around the village and being more proactive in approaching them. My hesitancy and question, I guess, around that is that commercial residence is typically owned by a landlord and rented out by the occupant, who probably has, if it's an industrial facility, has quite a high energy usage. So how do you incentivize that situation where it's the landlord that would take the burden of a solar panel installation, but the occupant is effectively getting the benefit of the power generation?
Normally there would be like a lease agreement with the landlord, so he would get, you know, for like 27 years, like a lease agreement, so like an annual payment or a monthly payment, annual payment, and then of course the tenant gets the benefit of the energy. And so we've got some groups. We've got one down in Hampshire at the moment called Overton. We're looking at a small industrial estate with a number of buildings, and they're going to put a microgrid, so solar, and connect all the buildings up. But the tenant, the owner of the industrial estate, will have we do a lease with in that context, and they get an annual rent for the solar on their roof. So there's a benefit like that. So that's a really good idea. And the green corridor, that really takes my imagination.
Yeah.
So I'm just aware of time. Mark is got his hand up. Then Liz. Esme, in the meantime, is going to post on the chat the questionnaire for everybody, and you'll get a letter at the end with the questionnaire. So Mark, please go ahead. You've moved. Oh, I can't hear you, Mark. Is Mark on mute? No, he's on mute now. Mark, will you type your question out and I'll read it out for you while Liz asks the question, because we can't hear you.
I suspect my question will be answered through Esme's presentation. Actually, I was just very conscious that we've got people here from Danbury who, when I asked if people knew each other, they didn't say yes. So I'm just wondering how we're going to, because we didn't ask when you signed up about sharing your contact details. If you want to share contact details, how you will network. Is that something that you've covered, Esme, or should we all get everybody, if they want to share their contact details, to stick their email address in the chat box?
Yeah, we didn't cover that. So yeah, please do put your email in the chat box.
If you want to, yeah, I would suggest then if you want to keep in touch with each other, put your email in the chat box, and then at the end, if you don't know, you can save the chat box by clicking on the three little buttons above type on the right hand side above type message here. So you will then you'll all have each other's contact details.
Liz, does everyone know how to open the chat box? I use Zoom a lot myself, so I just...
To Mark at the bottom, because I want Mark to write his question, at the bottom there's a little box called chat that you can click on.
Well, Mark,
we can't hear you, Mark. I wish I could.
No.
And then there's three little dots at the bottom on the right where you can save the chat box.
But if you just open the chat box first.
Did you find it, Mark?
Thank you, Esme. Well done.
Nothing happens.
Where it says chat?
Yeah.
So you've clicked on chat and nothing's opened on your screen?
No, I just get all the gallery of all our pictures moving around slightly. Ah, sorry, on the right. Type message here. Sorry, yep.
Found it, great.
Bottom right, yeah.
So at the end of the event, if you will click on the three little dots you'll be able to save the chat, and you'll all have each other's contact details.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to put something in the chat box too, which is, no, I'm not. It's not there. Don't worry, it doesn't matter.
Mark, are you winning with your question?
I'm learning how to use.
Oh, bless him. No, we can't hear you.
Chat box.
It might be the audio settings that Mark's got. So if you go to the, there's a little up arrow by the microphone at the bottom, and there's an audio settings tab at the bottom, and sometimes the microphone's turned right down.
Mark.
Yeah.
Bottom right, and there's a little upward arrow next to the microphone.
Bottom left on my screen.
Yeah, bottom. Sorry, I've lost all track. But so it's to the right of the microphone though. So there's an upward arrow, and there's an audio settings button, and sometimes the microphone's turned right down, so it doesn't work.
I'm also going to leave my email in the chat box, Mark, so you can ask me a question afterwards, because you can save that.
No help.
I think Esme is going to write to you all at the end to say thank you very much for joining, and to and then maybe by then. Yes, Mark, you did it.
Hi. Right, it's my lack of computer knowledge. Hi, my name's Mark Schofield, and I'm chair of a unincorporated association representing community interests in Danbury called Hands Off Danbury, which was originally set up to
now having Anna, who's going to show us how to find energy data for small
hold on.
such as that's useful for local communities. And local
Go on mute, Liz, please.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mark.
That was originally set up to resist unsustainable speculative development within the village. I'm also a member of the Danbury Society, and I'm also a member of the Neighbourhood Planning Committee. So my interests are wide and varied. I think this sounds like a really good initiative, and I think it's worth further investigation and work. However, I think the community's focus on solar power is going to be brought firmly to the fore because of the proposal to build a solar farm on the edge of the village. A company called Low Carbon has put in a request for an EIA, which isn't strictly necessary because of the size, because it's under 50 megawatts. It doesn't come into a strategic project, so normal planning rules apply. But I just wondered whether there was any connection between what we're trying to do here in Danbury, which seems to benefit the community, and the proposal for the solar farm covering 35 acres producing 22.5 megawatts for 7,000 homes, and whether there's any connection between the two, or you know, there doesn't seem to be. These two seem to be two separate strategies.
Well, let's come. Go ahead, Mark. Okay, well, that's a really good question, and I'm sure confidently I'll ask Tom to answer that, but I can give you a confidence that they're very separate projects, again, you know, that's something for a parish council to have a planning application for a project like that. You know, they may want to reach out to us to get some advice, for one, and you know, but there are some solar farms that have been built which have gone into community ownership, and you know, so that's another angle. But I think I can rest assured, I'll ask Tom just to confirm, but I know for sure that there's nothing to do with the two projects?
Mark, it's a coincidence. So we started working on Empower. Luciana, when did we start working on Empower? The bid probably was 2 years ago now, I suspect.
Yeah, 2019.
We've been working towards getting those solar panels on that school for some time. And it's completely a coincidence. And in fact, seeing a number of applications coming forward across Essex for a number of solar farms.
Yeah.
But I think actually, Ollie's point is the interesting one, because I think there's a conversation to be had with the developer about the community benefit that could come from that scheme. And I suppose it's an interesting one. It could take this discussion and it could scale it up very significantly quite quickly. So actually, I guess it's how we want to work with. We'd love to work with Danbury and the community there to make sure we get the most out of that development for the local residents.
I mean, interestingly, and I guess this is one for the representative from Chelmsford City Council to take back, is that we recently had an AQMA designated within the village, and ostensibly there should have been an action plan to mitigate the impacts of that AQMA. And
Mark, is it just
air quality management area?
Oh, okay.
The thing is that in pushing ahead with solar and renewables, which is great, we mustn't forget the fact that we've got an AQMA in the village. It's no good putting solar up and reducing carbon emissions if we don't do anything about the carbon emissions and the air quality management area that we already know. So we're still waiting for Chelmsford to come up with an AQMA action plan. We haven't had it yet.
I mean, as an employee of Chelmsford City Council, I can take that back to the public health team who deal with air quality. Of course I can, there's no trouble.
You know, it's a question of the balance between, you know, we're doing all this good stuff with solar, but we're not addressing the problem that we know that we've already got.
And Mark's, my view on that is that this is about climate action, and that takes many shapes and forms. So we could have a conversation with the community and their passion is about getting plastics out of their local community. We can have a conversation with another community and their passion might be improving the air quality in their locality.
Yeah.
I'm totally open to however a community wants to take steps in their local environment. All I'm interested in is that it helps us with drive to reduce emissions and improve the environment.
For me,
improve biodiversity. So yeah. I think all of these things are interconnected, and we need to work with, and I'm sure Michelle will echo this, the county and district need to work together to support initiatives across the piece to address not just increasing local energy, but also addressing equality issues, biodiversity, green infrastructure across the piece. So
yeah, for me, it's about scrutiny, it's about accountability, it's about democracy, and it's about letting everybody have their say. Obviously, as a huge pressure group within the village, we have a connection to over perhaps 1,000 people in the village. So, you know, if things are right and we could do something, because we don't know what the proposal is for the solar farm yet, but you know, I mean, it may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing, but it's a question about the benefit and the harm and the MPPF and everything else that we have to follow. So, yeah, I would be interested in some further dialogue with you.
Excellent. And, you know, bringing on that, sorry, I'm coming to you, Linda. And also, I was going to say that, sorry, I've chaired this terribly. We're past. Is everyone okay? If you do go, just say goodbye in the chat. And but I was going to say, Mark, you know, if you've got 1,000 properties, one thing that I know that a couple of communities that we've worked with who are linked to the neighbourhood plans, you know, they've done a separate questionnaire for the village on, you know, on their on people's interest around climate change and energy. And once again, I bring this back to the fact, yeah, well, a refreshing one maybe. Yeah. Now that you've got these solar panels on schools and the outdoor centre as a reminder for the village, you know, there's an interest. So yeah, it's interesting that you've got a community benefit society called Hands Off Danbury, because you know, look, community benefit societies can be reconfigured, you know, for
we should call
benefits.
it Hands On Danbury.
Hands on, go on, change the name.
Yeah.
So, or ask the kids at Linda's school what they think it should be called. So over to you, Linda.
I was just going to say, I totally agree with what Mark's just said about, you know, we've got a huge number of cars, you know, emitting carbon on the road. So it's not just about producing our electricity from roofs. And I'm really passionate and interested in all those kind of initiatives. I think we've touched on them briefly, but the community electric car initiative, that takes cars off the road, the electric bike hire initiatives, but also what I mentioned at the very start was the active travel challenge, whereby you work with schools to try and encourage people through competitions and rewards to walk to school. And not only is it taking, you know, reducing carbon, it's increasing people's health as well. I've already had a conversation with head at my school, Danbury Park, and she's a little bit interested in the active travel challenge, but we thought we'd leave it more to the spring kind of thing because of all the problems we've got at the moment with staggered entries because of the pandemic. But I'm really, really interested in all those kind of things as well. As Mark has just flagged that up, I just thought I'd throw that in.
And so should we just go for another 5 minutes if you're all okay? And then, so Margaret Ann, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. It's very interesting what you talked about this. So it's St. Clair's Solar Farm, which is this project that is there. And I actually have, I've actually got their leaflet, and they're asking for feedback by next Thursday, the 19th. And I actually plan to call them because it's actually out of low carbon. It is totally independent from the Danbury community. It does not look like, from the best of what I can tell, that it will benefit the community. It's something, and the land is leased, from what I understand. I'm going to check this out. But low carbon does this. You know, it's neither a good nor a bad thing, but it is not a community effort. One of the things that is possible to do, because I've now kind of started looking into this more, is that we as a community, and one of the things that I'll suggest is I'm going to look more at their business model, but also what are they going to do for the community? Because they mention specific things around let's say the flora and fauna, but what does that mean? And also one of the things that often people can ask, or we could ask, is that they contribute you know, an annual contribution to, let's say, a charity of our choice that benefits the community. So that's one small thing we could do. But I do like this idea very much of the community-based effort. It might be too late in this instance because these guys are ready to go. You know, this has all been done. This is what low carbon does. That's their business model, and they identify places that are available to put this on. That's not to say we couldn't do this. I like very much this idea. I plan on speaking with them, and I'll be happy to share with you, you all the notes if you care in any case. But what my concern is that if it's in our own backyard, that somehow the community gets a benefit from it. You know, it's not necessarily benefiting me, but somehow what I like so much about the schools that that have been put on, that Tom is doing and everything, is that it's benefiting the schools. Cheers.
Well, playing devil's advocate, you know, I mean, one might say, well, everybody will benefit from a solar farm. But then if you look at the business model and you look at where any profit generated is going to go, you say, well, who's the benefit going to go through? Because you're looking at the benefit and the harm. Well, who's the benefit going to go to? Well, here we have a company based in Jersey. So, you know, is all the money going to end up offshore? And we're not only not going to benefit from it, we're not going to even benefit from the tax that might have to be paid on the profit that is generated.
I think that's a much bigger problem with the solar farms.
Yeah.
Well, so Mark, I'm sorry, Stuart had his hand up. If you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll just throw something in. It's something that I've personally been thinking about for a while, which is Danbury is built on a hill. Well, Danbury is a hill. It's 100 metres above sea level. It's one of the highest points in Essex, and it drops fairly quickly down to to nearly sea level, around 10 metres at Sandon Brook, for example. And the feasibility of a micro pump storage is something that I've been interested in. It's a bit of a long shot, but there is already at the top of the hill a covered reservoir owned by Essex Water, which to my knowledge is not fully utilised, which stores a huge amount of water. And further down the hill, coincidentally, at St Clear's Pit, are some now sort of defunct what are they, sand and gravel extraction pits, which are full of water. So you already have two ends of a pump storage system. Maybe that's something we could throw in with the solar panels, that this is more of a community gain, something if they already own some of that pit, and put together a proposal there. Just a thought. It would, my calculations, I'm an engineer by profession, reveal that it would probably keep most of Danbury supplied by solar and then stored energy from a pump storage. So it would be enough for thousands of households, not just a few.
Nikki likes that. Stuart, can I just say, is that I'm really glad we waited on to hear that question. Now, this is how, basically what we have is something called the Royal Community Energy Fund, which is what Esme mentioned, which is a fund that's run by the Southeast Energy Hub, the Greater Southeast Energy Hub, which is part of the LEPs and BEIS and the government and what have you. Esme and I and Liz have worked on rural community energy funds. It now allows you a £40,000 fund to look at feasibility studies. And, that's something you need a community benefit society. So pump up Danbury, or something like that. But you can develop a rural community energy fund. It goes every quarter, and Esme and I can, we've got funding applications that we've put together for those type of feasibility studies. You get £40,000 and then £100,000 if it's feasible to take it through planning as a contribution. So, amazing story. If you had a pump storage scheme that offset the village's energy, that's really good. And Liz also at Community in South, you'll see on our website, and I know Liz will put it on the link. We ran a masterclass recently on how you get the measurement of your energy in your community and your carbon impact as a community, and then you can see how you can offset it. So yeah, that's really exciting. Well worth waiting on for your question. So without further ado, I think the next steps are, Esme, you will correct me, but we're coming back together with the masterclass for all community groups. And we're very happy. Esme's put her email in the chat, and you'll see it when an email comes out to you as well. If you've got ideas and you want us to help coordinate it, then we can follow up.
Yeah, really, just to add to that, the next step, yes, as well as the masterclass, is that we have got the business development support. So if you are looking to form a community energy group, you've all shared emails this evening, and looking to come together in a group to take forward projects like the one that Stuart mentioned, or others that you might be interested in, then we can support you to do that through the programme that's funded by Essex County Council. And at the second stage of that, we can support you with a bid, for example, to the Rural Community Energy Fund. So please keep in touch with each other. And if you are looking to form a group, on community energy, we can really help you out.
Great. So without further ado, shall I call the meeting to an end? Look out for your questionnaires, and it'd be really good to get your views coming back, and we'll put those together. Great.
Yes, Lucian, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. It was really nice to watch this and see the interest from the community and lots of ideas. So as like organizing this, me and Esme, where we kind of think, oh my God, it's very late. Will people turn up? We'll have an interesting discussion. So it was really great to see so many ideas, and please feel free to contact us, and I hope you this is just the start, really. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mark, did you want to have the last word?
Yeah, just wanted to say this process will have to go on, obviously, but in terms of the bigger picture, is there any way I could have a conversation with somebody to consider all of the elements of what's facing us? I mean, the other thing I'd like to talk about is with the developments in the village, how do we, get them to make sure that they're, like passive house standards and all that kind of stuff in terms of the properties we've got to build in Danbury.
Mark, I can help you with that. So at the County Council, and I'm sure Michelle will help from a district perspective, but we're having those kinds of conversations at County in terms of how do we encourage developers to think about energy efficient homes when they're building them. So I think you've got my contact details. I think I'll have yours, but
I've put mine on the chat, my email, Tom.
Okay,
but you're ACC, so I can find you.
Mark, we'll pick that up and we'll put you in touch with Tom. And then, Michelle, right, you need to be in that as well, don't you?
I do. It'll be me as a conduit to my planning policy guys, because really that question is more for my colleagues in building control who look at development that's happening now, and the planning policy team who have just signed off our or the planning inspectorate who's just signed off our local plan, which sets out the strategic kind of place-based developments for the growth of Chelmsford. But one of the things that we are looking at the moment is the development of an area of Chelmsford that's going to have a very high energy efficiency. I'm not going to say it's going to be passive house standard level of efficiency, but we're working with some people to do some energy master planning on that, and there's quite a lot going on in that space as well. But it's probably not for me to feed that back. That would probably be best coming from the planning policy team, but I can certainly make sure that they get in contact with the right people so that you can get feed with that.
Good. Well, I'm sure, and Mark being involved with the neighbourhood plan, so perfect. Right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been really exciting. Thanks very much to the Essex County Council team and for bringing this lovely sort of prize to the village of solar panels for the schools and for the outdoor centre. And thanks to Esme and Liz from the Community Energy South team in the background, cajoling everybody together. And thank you all for joining, and I hope good things come of it. So we'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you. Bye.